Ephemeral, can you say something?
Hello,
Yeah, okay.
it's me.
Start recording. Cool. Hopefully that's going there. Okay, so yeah, this is the second meeting we're running, and it's kind of a different approach to the first one. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting where if you've read through the meeting notes or if you were there, we brought everyone up to speed, kind of outlined the premise behind these meetings, which is to involve the community more and make ourselves more available to the community for discussions, anything that comes up or anything that's ongoing, any concerns that people have about us or anything in the community or the game, client, or PP or anything. So this week, what we're going to be doing is basically opening up to any and all questions from the audience. No matter what question you want to ask, you're welcome to jump in and ask it. The idea being we collect questions. Any questions we can answer on the spot, we'll do so. Any we can't, if they do require discussion to gain some insight, gain some context around them, then we'll have like a limited discussion of about 5 minutes, maybe max 10 minutes, so we can get through quite a few questions. But the idea being that we are just trying to get through as many as we can, so we can get an idea of what people are wanting, what people are concerned about these days. Yep, so that's where we are. So what we'll do is allow anyone to raise their hand and jump into the conversation. I think last time we figured there was a setting for that, right?
Yeah, I've
I don't know
turned
what
off
that is.
requests for everyone. So anyone verified should be able to request to speak if they want to. I think. Judging by the fact there's no requests, that might not be the case.
Yeah.
You can click the hand and allow requests from everyone.
Is that what you need to do? Okay. Let's try.
I think so.
That seems to be working. That's kind of cool. Has a list. So yeah, what we'll do is we'll accept requests one at a time from people. And I guess if other people are also agreeing that the question is an important one, maybe raise your hand when the question is asked, even if you don't want to speak, and just so we can get see a count of people that are interested in the question. But yeah, we're gonna have to. We need people to actually put their hand up and start the conversation. Hopefully, we do actually have some questions here. Winter, welcome.
If they accept, that is.
I'm dumb. Okay. Was pending originally used for like a queue for BNs to just scan through and rank maps?
The pending category.
Yeah. Like where people put like pending and then work in progress.
I think that was the case, yeah. So work in progress with things which weren't ready, and pending was anything that was ready for review.
Yeah. Nowadays you have to go to a BN and just ask them to look at your map.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's
yeah.
been like that for like nearly 10 years now. It was like that when I first started playing. You had to like ask a BAT to check something for you. So that hasn't really changed all too much.
Yeah, it has been a long time since we've had like, what do you even want to call it? Organic people reviewing maps.
Passive
Unless,
discovery.
yeah, there's just such a huge flow that unless like BN's looking for maps which they're interested in, or from like popular mappers, which still does happen these days, I think. We did at one point discuss having like a queue where BNs or just people interested in modding beatmaps in general would be able to hit like this start queue button, and it would throw them a beatmap to review, and they could either review it and potentially get some points from it to kudos or whatever the system we chose to use was. And you could skip over a map if you weren't interested in it. But the idea was that like maps were presented to the reviewer in a curated queue, I guess. But that I actually implemented that in the version of beatmap discussions before the current one. It was on the old site still, but we never really got too far with using that. I don't know if it's a good idea or
I
not.
remember
but
it was P bubbles or something, wasn't it?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in any of the bubble stuff. But yeah, Winter,
No,
are
no,
you
no.
saying that you would prefer that that's a kind of thing which we looked at, or?
I feel like it would be really cool if there was like a if you wanted a map to be ranked, there would be a button or like something to like put it into a category where beans can go through that list, all the maps that from people who want their maps to be ranked.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's
you're
not a
saying
bad idea.
people aren't aware that the pending category or aren't using the pending category for that purpose anymore?
I think so. Mainly for Mania, uh, but I read that you guys were going to talk about how to make the criteria a bit easier.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure pending is like a good name for that status. Like maybe
Not
we
anymore,
should
that's
anyway.
rename it to like ready for rank or shooting for rank or some term which makes it more easy to understand what it means to put your map in there versus work in progress.
That's a good idea.
And maybe even renaming work in progress if we can come up with a better idea. I don't know.
It's a relatively simple change too, actually.
Okay. I guess I'm done.
Cool. Thanks for your question.
That was a good
That's a good
first
one.
one.
Yeah. Feel free to invite someone else to speak. I'm just noting this down in the notes.
I guess we'll do Sido since he was up first. Or they were up first.
First off, I would just like to apologize for a bad microphone. The other one broke, so sorry if it's a little bit hard to hear me.
Yeah, that's what's fine.
Oh, okay, thanks. So with like the survey results for the PPE survey already, I know like people were saying they wanted to like see how that plays out before considering other modes. Now that the results have been like done and analyzed, are there surveys planned for other game modes?
I don't think there are presently, unless I'm mistaken.
It's a really good
Those-
question.
We
as
haven't
well.
made plans yet, but I think we probably ought to.
We definitely
Yeah,
should,
well,
yeah.
we kind of have the infrastructure infrastructure in quotation marks set up to do those surveys and results. So yeah,
God.
and next time we probably want to do the user verification part, which we talked about, to make sure we're actually sure that top 100 players are top 100 players voting. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see anything against running more surveys. I think people enjoyed seeing the results and actually participating in the survey, so we should probably do it on more on ongoing basis. The questions would probably have to differ per mode. So I
Oh,
think
for
if
sure.
you're interested in seeing that happen, last time we did get questions from the people involved in PP work, the ongoing work in this Discord. So a good start, if you're interested in seeing one happen for a specific mode, would be to just bring it up in the difficulty channel for that mode, and we'll try and get something started. I don't know if
Alrighty.
we should do it in an order, like one mode at a time. That might be best. Go with like.
I don't know how to
Probably,
tackle something like Mania that hasn't had a difficult change yet.
Yeah, that's what I was. Well, I'm a Mania player, so that's kind of what I was
Yeah,
thinking
Mania
there.
may be the best next one. Then.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of ask like general questions like how difficult is a jump stream? But that's kind of already sort of known a little bit.
Right.
Should we do that then? Should we schedule that for like this month? Just get like since there's all that momentum in Mania at the moment, we may as well keep it going.
Let's do it. Let's get a Mania
Alright.
one going.
Yeah, Mania and Catch, because Catch also has changes going on. Maybe even Tycho, because people are a little bit
Yeah, I've
Not
heard
happy
there's
with
some
Aacai.
grumbling about the morph changes there.
Yeah. Almost basically, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm gonna head out.
Good stuff. So you're taking that question down? I'm looking at the sheet. I can see you doing. Okay, we'll get RevelSix in here then.
Yep, keep it rolling.
Hello, sirs.
Hello.
So, with the OSU World Cup around the corner, are there any plans to implement changes to multiplayer, whether it be only for tournament players or for everyone, like hiding the feedback until the end, like the thing that was in that Twitter poll?
Okay, so the Twitter poll, for those not aware that we're talking about here, is one to do with hiding the scoreboard on the left, correct?
Yeah, and then I think the crown during breaks.
The crown, okay. So it's basically removing all elements that show that you're in a multiplayer game. That poll I ran, as I kind of disclaimed in the poll, wasn't to actually suggest that anything was going to change. It was more because I was working on the same feature in Lazer and figuring out like the direction forward. Because I guess you already know my opinion on that is that it needs to kind of exist to give players a sense that they're in a multiplayer game. But there's also a strong I think the poll was pretty much 40-60 or 70-30 depending on how the question was asked. So there's
Yeah,
it's definitely
the final poll was 88 yes, 11 no.
right. Yeah. So depending on how you ask the question, people give different answers. But there is a slight majority towards wanting to be able to toggle it off. In Lazer, the initial version of it I did was like having a very minimal UI for the scoreboard during gameplay. It actually compacts itself down, and it seems to work quite well. I don't remember if you can actually completely hide it in Lazer. I don't think you can.
I think people are more. I think the question. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the question's more pointed at like changes to stable in that regard.
Yeah, I get that. I'm gonna get there. I was just saying that the poll I ran was like disclaiming that I wasn't gonna make changes to stable, so
Right.
just putting that up front. But the weird thing about that is you can already toggle it off in stable. It's just it doesn't save the setting. That's the only issue people have. I guess the crown is still there. That's non-toggleable. But the scoreboard, it's that people have issues because they have to smash the shift tab or tab key during the first match after starting the game. So it's like just saving that setting, I guess, is what you want.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
can I just say that like after the HP bar changes came in, even in the ANZT tournament, there were players that had their skins broken because of that they were hiding like the scoreboard, I think.
To
So-
explain that, people were skinning their HP bars to have black squares on other areas of the screen to cover up other gameplay elements, and we inadvertently broke that by changing the ordering to fix another issue somewhere else with Flashlight, I think. Yeah, so to answer that question, mangomizer says that the question may be that you don't want to see the scoreboard during breaks.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah. I don't know. That's not going to change before OWC, put it that way. With Lazer, I don't think it's going to change either. But we are looking at making it more minimalized to reduce distractions in the gameplay area.
Right,
But
yeah.
I think there's always going to be a HUD overlay for multiplayer, and if anything in Lazer, it's going to be more details, but better placed on the screen and less flashy and stuff.
All right, because I think a lot of the disconnect that happened with that poll was because people thought that it might have been something that was added into stable if there was enough support for it, but that kind of clears it up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would be willing to add the saving of the setting in stable. That's the most recent thing that I've seen on Twitter. People bring up is that, like, yeah, toggling it at the start of the match is a bit of a pain, and why not allow it to save if it's already a toggle is kind of what people are saying, and I agree with that. So I might try and get that in before OWC, just to alleviate that level of pain. But I don't think I'm going to be changing anything about it displaying in breaks. If that sounds roughly okay.
All right, well, thank you, sirs.
And yeah, I guess I get that a lot of people are going to disagree with that opinion, but I don't know. I don't think.
Oh
I
shit,
don't
I
think.
guess.
Well, yeah.
I think at a level it's kind of clear you want essentially there to be some delineation between multiplayer and single player, whereas the people that are playing tournament level stuff just want as little distraction as humanly possible.
Yeah. So what we did discuss in Lazer is that because in Lazer we've got a lot more room for adding new customizations, we were discussing allowing it as a toggle as the host of the room. So if a tournament at a tournament level wanted to disable it, they could potentially do that, and it would be the main thing there is keeping a level playing field for all players. But I don't by default I wouldn't want to see that turned off. It would be like a kind of advanced setting kind of thing.
Okay, I guess we'll keep things rolling then. We've got Mango up. If he accepts the invite.
Oh, thank you for the prompt. I didn't realize there was a button there. No, I just wanted to jump on RevelSix's point because I think the thing about the... Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think it's a thing that's been bugging a lot of tournament players because I just wanted to add that people have been literally using physical solutions to get the scoreboard out of the way. And I think that's like, I've heard of stories, people putting post-it notes on their monitor, which seems kind of extreme. Like it seems like such a simple thing to be able to disable leaderboards regardless of whether it's during a break or not, because I feel like, well, I think it's a thing that seems fairly simple to implement. That's
The
essentially
implementation is no issue. Yeah.
It's just a choice. It's a design
The
choice.
issue is me.
I think.
Well, not just me,
Yeah.
because I've discussed it with other
Well,
people,
it's you.
and I'm not the only one that thinks this way. But yeah, for the post-it note solution, I actually agree with. I'm fine with that. Like, because then if you have someone streaming a tournament and they've got a fucking post-it note on the screen, well, they're shit. They're it's like you're able to see their self-imposed the opposite of a handicap.
What advantage? Yeah, I don't know. I get where you're coming from there, but I don't think people are going to view that like that at all. I think they're just going to think, well, I want to play the game distraction free. Why can't I? It's
Yep.
a bit of a weird hill to die on. I think a lot of people consider it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, thanks. I just wanted to bring that up in case it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I and like it's a very hard one. I know like when people are going to listen to this meeting and be like, "Fuck Peppy," but it's like if you look at any other game out there, you will be hard to find a game where there is absolutely no visual display, no sign that you're playing with other players during a multiplayer session. Even looking at other rhythm games, most of them are actually more intrusive than us in terms of showing your relative status in the games. And like a lot of the things I've incorporated with us multiplayer in stable were based on like my experience with other games like DJ Max Online, and that also had a very like present display of other players, more than us even. I don't know. It doesn't feel right to have a multiplayer game where and this has been discussed on Twitter.
Well, I think
ends.
I think partly the reason why people feel that way because multiplayer, unlike most other games, multiplayer in OS, like what you do in your game doesn't influence others. Like say, just pick a random game like League of Legends or something, where if you kill, I don't play League, so I don't know the terminology, but you say you kill the other champions, like that has an impact on how your game runs or something. So it's important that those things are intrusive. Whereas in OS, essentially, multiplayer is just, well, like 8 people in a room playing single player, and like what you do has no influence on.
Yeah, and the only way it would possibly add some kind of influence is if you could see what the other players were doing, right?
But
like
you wouldn't.
If you saw someone on your team combo break, you'd potentially be like, "Oh shit!" and you'd either combo break yourself because you're fucked at that point, or maybe you'd be like, "Oh, I need to put in extra effort."
I don't know. I think it's worth having a longer discussion about this at some point in the future.
We've already had like thousands of tweets worth of discussion on this, so.
Okay.
Anyway, so here's my argument with DJ Max. I don't think there's been a game that is as competitive as OS in rhythm games. Like you can go to like IIDX and be like, oh yeah, you can see like your opponent's score like counting up as your score is counting up. Wow, such real time, right? Or like you can go to Aacai and see that the score is like always visible on your screen, or any other game basically has the score always visible on your screen in single player mode. Or DJ Max Online, which has like, that's the one with like the characters on the side, right?
No.
I guess I was
the full gameplay fields of each player.
Right, that one. That one, and was the other one O2 Jam, I think, then that I was thinking
That's
of.
The one, yeah. With the other characters, yeah.
Yeah, like you have that, but it's more like a multiplayer experience. It's not a tournament experience.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't think just saying, well, suck it up is like a good
yeah, but
thing.
And that's where I brought up the point that we discussed, which is allowing tournament hosts to actually change that setting if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that's a good direction forward because it keeps everyone happy, but it's not going to happen in stable.
All right, thanks for your time. I'm gonna head off now.
No worries, thanks for the question.
Okay, shall we take another one then?
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's get a breaker in here. Hello.
Hello. So there are 2 threads discussing whether to remove spread requirements. One thread is geared toward the Mania community specifically, and another one towards the general OS community. The consensus from the Mania community is to remove spread requirements, while standard and other communities are strongly against it. So it's apparent some things are specific to one game mode and don't apply to another. I know how homogeneity is a game mode is desired, but it's apparent that's causing friction. I'm planning to submit a proposal to remove spread requirements from Mania specifically, and a concern is your willingness to accept such a radical change. Are you?
Okay, so just to bring me up to speed, the spread requirements we currently have, they have already been relaxed quite heavily, haven't they? It's like if you have an insane level map, you don't need any other difficulty, basically.
Depends on a few things.
Yeah. I'm not completely familiar with the specific drain times But it's pretty much if you have a long enough map, you can have a difficulty starting from insane as the lowest
It's based
difficulty.
on the length of the beatmap.
Yeah.
I think it's if it's below 330, you have to have a normal, but if it's above, insane can be the lowest or something.
Right. That's a weird criteria to base it on, but okay.
I can't remember how that came about. It's a long series of compromises on compromises.
So the change here is to relax that, as in remove that duration limit or discerning factor.
No, the request
Is that the current proposal?
Well, the proposal is to remove the need for spreads altogether, so you can submit one difficulty of any length.
Just for Mania, right?
Yeah, one difficulty that's easy, one difficulty that's hard, and have it be rankable.
So JB Hyperion is saying the current criteria below 3 minutes 30 must have a normal below 4:15, must have a hard below 5, must have an insane, and above 5 minutes is no requirements. Just for reference.
Okay.
Yeah. So like my opinion, personal subjective opinion on this is that, and we've discussed this in private before, is that we already have so many beatmaps on us that the idea behind the spread criteria that have been there basically since day one is to create maps which are approachable to new players, to make sure people have an entry point to the game. And it's done that very well. Like I've seen even recently there was a YouTube video made by some guy, a pretty well made video about rhythm games, and they mentioned specifically that US has it's very easy game to get into because there are so many easy difficulties, unlike other community rhythm games out there, which are more focused explicitly on the insane
top end.
expert top end. Yeah. So it has worked really well, but the other argument is that we have so many ranked beatmaps these days that there is that content already available, and maybe we can relax this more without having a negative effect.
Yeah.
Go on.
Go on.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot more easy and normal difficulties, maybe even hard difficulties, than insane and extreme difficulties. Mania is suffering from a lack of extreme difficulties severely. Yeah. So regardless of length requirements.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fair point, and I can agree with that. With less knowledge of expert mania maps, because I don't have that level of playability. But yeah, I personally agree with relaxing the spreads, but you're saying there is a pushback on that, so it's something we probably need to look into further. Your proposal being that you want to have it implemented just for Mania as a first step, breaking the parity over all game modes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ephemeral, any thoughts on that?
I think we should do it. We should
just Mania.
Yeah. I think it's perfectly fine to do it just for them.
Yeah, I think the idea here is to fix the issues in the simplest way possible, and that does seem like the simplest way possible. It's not like a huge ask. I don't think the ranking criteria already has per rule set per game mode documents, so it's not like we're adding something new. So I think we should go with that just for
we
Mania.
definitely should. They're in serious need of it. They've been in need of this for like the past 2.5 years or more. It's been a long time coming.
I would be interested in seeing it pushed out to the other game modes as well, but maybe like adding it for Mania is a good starting point, and we can work from there rather than having a long discussion, because it seems, I haven't read the discussion threads, but if there is a pushback against having it in the OS mode as well, then yeah, let's just get it out for one at a time.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay, did you have another question or?
No, that's all.
All right, I guess we'll move on then. We've got Shino, it looks like. Invite them in. Hello.
Hello. So I actually had a couple of questions that I actually had at the end of the last meeting, but there was no time to ask questions then. So,
Shoot, go ahead.
So my first question is, so I've been playing Lazer quite a bit recently, and I've been trying to get my friends to play it as well because, I mean, in my opinion, it's just better. But all of them pretty much unanimously agree that the game feels bad, and that's their words, to play. Is this related, do you think, to like slider head accuracy or other like gameplay changes, or what else do you think might be causing that reaction from quite a few people actually, that the game feels bad compared to stable?
With or without the classic mod?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say first.
So I actually did that. I mean, I had them play that, and they still said it felt. So even with the classic mod, it still felt different in a bad way, is how they described it, I believe.
Yeah,
It's hard to.
we've had a lot of people say this in the past, and that's kind of why we did this classic mod thing to remove the actual gameplay mechanic changes to kind of give people a level playing field to test this. But if they're still saying there's issue, it feels weird even with the classic mod. First thing, if they're feeling like it's not performing as well, or there's like some kind of latency induced, the main issue that I can think of there is that if they're running on certain graphical hardware, I think NVIDIA Optimus is the one that comes to mind. Exclusive full screen may not be working still, and it's something I think Smoogy's next focus may be looking at that again. It's not an easy one to fix, but it is something we're aware of. But that could be it. If they're not getting exclusive full screen, it means there's going to be an induced latency of like 1 to 2 frames more than stable. Even if they're running full screen and it seems like it should be working. So you can kind of test against that. If they're using compatibility mode on stable, maybe ask them. If they are, then it's definitely going to feel different on Lazer, and that's something we will fix. But apart from that, I would also be like, try and get your friends to play again if you can, and like get them to try and pinpoint what they feel is different. Maybe start with like some easier maps, or I don't know.
I can think of
Okay,
one
I
thing
know
that's
it's
different,
okay.
which is the slider ball. It currently like fades in and out instantly with the classic mod. And I've been pointed a few times that feels different than stable, but it's very hard to point that out if you don't know it.
Yeah, we do have a PR open for that, so that might change in the near future, adding the animation back.
Yeah, I know that's kind of not an easy question to answer, but I just thought I'd throw that out there in case there's something known. But
yeah, definitely the compatibility mode thing is the number one thing that comes to mind.
Okay, so another question that I had is related to mapping for standard. So recently I've tried to get into mapping, but I've found that it's just way too, at least in my opinion, a really steep learning curve. And there's not that many resources out there, community or official or otherwise, to actually learn mapping, aside from perhaps like I believe there's like a mentorship program, but that's not, it's not exactly the first thing you find on the OSU website when you want to learn how to map. So I'm wondering if there's any plans for additional, like a tutorial or some sort of additional guidance for new mappers that's maybe gives like an easier introduction to the basics of mapping.
I don't
Yeah.
think we have anything scaled for that, do we?
Yeah, so I completely agree. Agree. When you get into the beatmap editor, you're kind of thrown a few resources, but they're very dated links. And for someone getting into mapping, I don't think they're going to be sitting there reading a huge wiki page on how to use the editor. Although some people may do that.
Didn't we have the OS Academy series?
Oh, I was going to say that Pishy made a pretty good video series on mapping. But I don't know if that's linked well. I don't know if it's actually linked from the client.
I don't even know how to get to it, so I'd assume not.
Actually, no. Have you actually seen the Pitchy Fat series?
I have, yeah, and I searched it up myself on YouTube. But one concern I had with that was that the I guess the meta or the trend of mapping changes so frequently that any video like that would get outdated pretty soon, or pretty quickly, I'd think.
Yeah, well, because he did two kinds of videos. One was like talking about how mapping mechanics work and more advanced stuff, but I think he already also did a very basic one on editor usage, right? Am I mistaken?
I think he did, yeah. I'm just wondering if there's plans to add something like in the UI or on the main like wiki page for the editor, like towards the top or something like that. That would
Yeah,
link
so the
to
wiki
some
does
sort of
have pretty good documentation, but you know, there's always room for improvement. I think with Lazer, I definitely want to make the editor more approachable. Like from the ground up, we've been working on making the user interactions, the way things are done in the editor, a lot more easier to understand, because I personally like to make interfaces which are self-explanatory. They don't need huge tutorials to actually get into them. So that going forward, that is the primary goal, is making the editor approachable and not require documentation. But at the same time, I do think that once we get further into the Lazer timeline, we'll probably get Pitchy or someone in the community to make new videos on the editor, and you know, a tutorial series that you can follow along with. Because making videos is the easiest way to do this kind of stuff. Like you could also say that there should be an in-game tutorial interactive kind of feature, but that requires developer time, and we're pretty short on that right now. So I think the starting point would be first having the Lazer editor in a feature complete state. Like it's still missing tapping to time the map and a few of the very early required features to get started with mapping. Once they're in, I think it would be good to get a new video series going and just bring things up to date for sure.
Okay. And then I had one last question. So it's about actually server side development. There's a lot of resources for getting into developing the actual Lazer client, but what about for like store processing or SQL database work or anything like that? I know there's some in the OSU web repository, but is that where store processing is handled? I couldn't find and maybe I didn't poke around in the code long enough, but I wanted last time you talked about there need to be store processing and consistency checks and a lot of server side work that needed to be done before score submission could be, I guess, finalized in Lazer. And I was wondering if there's any resources to help with that.
Right, yeah. So helping with infrastructure stuff is kind of hard, to the point where I'm not really looking for help right now. Because the only kind of help that would really be usable is someone that is like already familiar with the full infrastructure, which is like I don't have documentation on that anywhere to that level. But also it would require like you would need 10 years or 20 years of experience as DevOps or working with these things to actually be of any help. Because like it's such we're working with such large amounts of data, and there's very specific use cases in how OS consumes that data, which is different from other applications, like the way leaderboards are required to be fetched in a certain order using certain query structures, which are quite uncommon for standard online systems. That I don't know how easy it would be to get more people involved. Like I'm currently trying to get the Poon, because he's helping with infra stuff, as he transitions out of playing the game / studying. So I'm getting him more involved and kind of hoping to document more of the process along the way. But yeah, I don't know if there's much I can offer you by that way. We do have a few open source, like all the new infrastructure components that we are using or creating are open source. So I would recommend just looking on the PPY organization on GitHub and looking for any of the new projects we're pushing that we don't really announce or anything, because it's all there for viewing. And if you do have anything to add to it, or you just want to follow along, you can do so. Things like OS score statistics processor, rank cache. What was the one you just made, Smiggy? It's like beatmap lookup cache, rank lookup cache, all these like, in quotations, like micro components that we're making to handle specific workflows, just to speed things up or move things forward as we prepare for Lazer. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone have anything to add to that, Smokey? No.
I'm just gonna sit here and nod my head.
Does that answer your question roughly?
I guess so. I do have about 5 years of experience working with MySQL and servers, so I was just wondering if there was any opportunity to help with that. But
Yeah, right.
If it's super involved, as you're saying, and it's not documented, then I guess that made sense why it's not quite as open.
Well, yeah, like I still run the OS infrastructure like 95% myself, and that's the easiest way for me to run it. Like, getting more people involved obviously has like margin for things going wrong, and it's also the matter of documenting that level of knowledge to someone else is a process in itself, a time-consuming process. So with the, just to give an idea or a summary of where we are in the timeline of getting Lazer score submission working, we did actually update the table, or the format, the schema of the table for the Lazer score storage. And it's not just Lazer, it's going to be like we're migrating all the old scores across to the new table structure. That's been deployed last week, so we are making forward progress there. There's a few other changes we need to make, like currently, and you can see the schema. It's in the score statistics processor repository, and also OSWeb, because OSWeb is doing the score insertion portion. So there was a PR last week that you can follow along with. There's a few more issues remaining there, like Smiggy brought up, that we need to add a column tracking the submission version, whether it was stable, Lazer, and which version, like which subversion of that. And the next thing I'm going to be looking at is actually migrating all the existing scores, like all the billions, hundreds of billions of existing scores across the new table, and that has a time limit on it because our existing score storage is approaching the point of saturation, exhausting the primary key. So that may happen sooner than you expect.
All right. Well, thank you for the time.
No worries.
All right. I guess we're good for another question then, yeah?
Hey, in the document I've shared, the now private document, if anyone can fill in the names of the people that asked the first 3 questions, I didn't put them in there. So just bringing that up if anyone's listening.
Okay.
I think it should be right access. Why are you putting what are you doing to my ephemeral? Stop.
Oh shit, sorry, that's my push to talk key. Okay, sorry, wrong thing.
Okay,
let's
we
get
have
DigitalHypno.
let's move. Have we invited someone? DigitalHypno.
You just did.
Hello?
Yo.
Hello.
Okay, so regarding discoverability of the loved category voting, I think it's something that's sort of been up for discussion for a long time. So I have 2 things that I want to sort of talk about, if there's plans for it or if it's viable. So one is a sort of qualified section for the loved category that could obviously increase discoverability, but also we could probably incorporate something like you need to have played the map in order to vote on it. And we brought it up in the loved channel, but I think it was Clayton who mentioned, like, be careful about implementing something so official because then it might be hard to change. But just wondering what your thoughts are for a solution like that for discoverability.
Can you explain what you mean? You have to play the
Oh.
map to.
Well, basically, okay, so is it viable to have a sort of qualified section for loved maps, like while they're up for vote? then you have a sort of temporary leaderboard on them.
Right. So rather
I'm
than
not
because
sure.
currently you're using forum threads, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't give much visibility for people that aren't that deep in the forums.
Well, outside of news posts, there's not a lot. It's like there's a main
Yep.
menu banner that points to the giant "fuck you" Project Love news post, and then people have to go through that.
So you're saying have a qualified section which lists all the current up for vote maps, and then what some kind of in-game link to the forum to the voting thread, or
Right.
Just a
And
subforum or something.
I think what would be most ideal is something in Lazer that sort of incorporates voting into the client itself. If that's, I don't know how viable
Yeah.
something like that would be.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, yeah. I think that would sort of be ideal.
Yeah, definitely. Getting that in stable is another question altogether.
Yeah,
but-
that's not even up for discussion, I feel like.
Funny story. I do actually have a system like that in place for stable on a branch, which has like a well, we've already got the rating system in stable at the end of the beatmap, but I redid that to be like a ternary state thing where you like dislike, but that never got out. That's been like 4 years since I've actually looked at that code. So yeah, let's not talk about stable for now. But yeah, go on.
Oh, right. So Nafi also mentioned we've also talked about putting the voting on the beatmap page itself on the website, rather than needing to dig up wherever the voting page is, which a lot of people find trouble discovering in the first place, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, finding it on the beatmap page, the voting there, is that something that's feasible to implement? Like while a
Yeah, I
map
think
is
that
in the
could
graveyard?
happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything website we can probably make happen if there's enough of a push for it.
Right. Okay. I think that is probably the longest standing proposal for like helping love to vote discoverability. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So like we could do it in two ways. We could either have an inline voting thing on the beatmap page itself, which is the harder one to do, or we could have like a notice which displays on there being like this is currently up for qualify up
And
for
then
love. Click here to access the
right.
forum thread.
Okay. The latter one seems obviously easier to implement if it can be implemented relatively soon, if it's not too tricky. And then
Yeah.
if we end up figuring out how to implement the first one, then can switch over to that one.
And you mentioned wanting something about having to play the map first. Is that for the voting part?
That's still sort of up for discussion, like if that's really necessary or not. But
Right.
whether or not it is possible to, or like something you guys think would be okay to implement, if you know,
Yeah,
if
I think
it's decided.
so. A starting point would be to just open an issue on the OSWeb repository with this proposal, and I would go with the first one, having the vote. So is it just a yes no vote for whether you think this map should be loved?
Right. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can probably do that. Just go the full way and have it integrated into the beamer page itself, because then we can also do the play check first, which I think should be there. I think people should have to play through the map to actually vote.
Okay.
So make a proposal with that in mind, and we'll take it from there.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Very good. Okay, we got a bunch. Do we have time for more? Are we still doing this for an hour or?
Keep going.
Okay. How do we handle people with repeat questions? Because we've got a Sydosys back up again.
I'll go for the ones
already.
which haven't asked a question first, and we'll get to the repeat ones if we run out.
All right. We'll go with TheCan then. If they decide to accept the invitation. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little new to this accepting thing.
It's all good.
Yeah. Hi. I'm an Osu player. I've been playing for a couple months now. It's a very fun game. I like how you have this set up where you really get to be in contact with the player base, get to hear what they have to hear, or I mean to say. Excuse me. And I've been hearing these great questions. I just want to ask, I want to get down to the nitty-gritty, What's your favorite food? What's your favorite color? Yeah. You know?
Cool. The first oddball question we've had, I guess.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
odd
yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
So let's go with one of your two questions. Did you want the favorite food or favorite color?
You know, whichever one you feel most connected to.
Oh fuck. My favorite food is burgers for sure.
Oh, great choice. American choice. I like it. Mm.
Femoral?
I don't
Femoral, what's
know.
your opinion on the matter?
I'm gonna go with color and say blue.
I like it.
Blue
You know, it's
burgers.
part of the American flag. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go.
Very, very
Very American. Wow.
cool. Well,
Wow.
glad you're enjoying
Yeah,
us
no, yeah.
and participating in this level of community meeting. It's cool to see
Yeah.
newer players here as well. So
Yeah. I
enjoy your time.
eventually I'll have a much more important question to ask, but you know, I'll get
for sure.
the basics
So
first.
we're like 10 years deep with these questions, so it's understandable that not everyone has something to say.
Gotcha. All right, have a
Cool.
good one, guys.
You too.
You too, man. Okay, I guess we'll move on. I'm not even trying to pronounce this one. It's the AA one.
Hi, can you hear
No.
me?
Yep, sure can.
All right, nice. So I'm not sure if this was already addressed. It's just a question about when PP submission comes to Lazer, and it's just mainly about how you're going to like integrate all the new mods with leaderboard submission, right? Like for example, with the classic mod, like will you be able to, for people who will play on Lazer, will they be able to play without the classic mod? Play an old map that that's from stable, and then have that like submit onto the leaderboard, and then how would that show up on the stable client, right? And then for example with variable mods like DT, how you can change the rate of DT now, right? How is that going to show up on the leaderboard in terms of Lazer? Is it going to share the same DT leaderboard? Are you going to see like what rate it was at, and then how will that translate to stable? Yeah, that's basically kind of it.
Cool. So it's a bit of a two-part question. First is how are the new mods actually going to integrate? How are they going to play
integrate
with
into the leaderboard,
other scores, and how are we going to display that on stable?
Yeah, because I feel like once PP submission comes out, there's going to be like this huge disconnect between stable players and then Lazer players as well, and then like this leaderboard thing is like one of it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of the reasons we're taking this like step by step, is to try and avoid like destroying the community by introducing too many new things or changing too many things at once. Because as I probably mentioned last OS meeting, a lot of what OS means to a lot of players is that we always have like, persistent history. The scores are there from day one until today, so we don't want to break that. So how are mods going to work is the first part, and whether you're going to be required to use classic mod for older beat maps. We haven't yet come to a conclusion for whether classic mod will be forced for certain maps. In previous discussions, we brought up that maybe it would be a specification that mappers could choose for certain maps, like if they wanted to ensure that their map doesn't break with behaviors in the map that requires no slider head judgments, something like that, then they could force it on. We haven't come to a conclusion on that, so it's a bit up in the air still. But you can be rest assured that when we first turn on Lazer score submission, it's going to be done in a way which doesn't create any kind of disconnect, like whether that means that you will have to turn on classic mod to submit, or whether it means that any scores without classic mod are not going to show on stable scores and not going to show up on the web default display. You would have to actually drill down into like a Lazer specific scoreboard or something. Smoogie, do you have any initial thoughts on? Because this is something we've discussed over years, and we haven't reached a conclusion yet, so it's a bit up in the air.
Well, I don't think we should be showing Lazer scores at all on stable.
Yeah. Well, that's the second part of the question. As more focused on how mods are gonna work going forward, because there's also the discussion of how mod multipliers should be implemented.
So, oh wait,
Yeah,
so Sorry. You said that Lazer scores or new Lazer scores aren't going to be shown on the stable client. Is that what you're saying?
Potentially, like at least for the first stages of getting Lazer into a state where is actually submitting scores.
Okay. Sorry, I
Because
interrupted you guys.
like if we can get them displaying in stable, we will, but I don't think it will happen immediately, and it's going to require a bit of thought because we need to make sure that things like replays, and the edge cases where the classic mod doesn't actually bring things perfectly in line with stable. There's still quirks in stables and like the way it handles certain orders of clicks, orders of judgments occurring in the map, and some things which we've like decided we're not going to implement, like quirks or bugs in the way stable gameplay mechanics work, which we're not going to implement in Lazer. So if we do allow scores to display in stable, they're going to need to be like well marked that this was set on Lazer, and because there may be an advantage to playing the map on Lazer. But I see that as more of a gradual process, which is going to, like, at first we just don't want to create the disconnect you mentioned. So it's going to be a very gradual thing, and as people become more familiar and as more players move over to the new system, we'll probably push for displaying new stuff more. Smiggy, what did you have to say about not showing scores in stable? You may have more insight than me.
No, I mean, you basically just said everything.
Okay, yeah.
The other part was like how the leaderboards are going to work and how mod multipliers are going to work. And I've long proposed this idea of PP leaderboards and a prestige leaderboard, where like the prestige leaderboard basically represents how cool of a score you have. Because currently, if you put easy, for example, you get your score like demoted off the leaderboard. And I just don't think that's like really what people want. When you go on like Reddit and you see like an easy score and it's like, what? Us how? You kind of want those scores to like show up, right? It seems like that's what the community kind of wants. But then there's the PP leaderboard for those that are like, yeah, this score is like actually difficult. Because with 1 million score, it actually makes it very difficult to implement mod multipliers in a way that they don't break the leaderboard. It's like the effects of mod multipliers at 1 million score is so much greater than at 50 million.
Yeah, speaking about mod multipliers, just a quick tidbit. Are you guys planning to I don't know how to phrase it properly, like maybe remove multipliers from mods and have like some sort of other system that like rewards more score if you are using mods or whatnot? Or I've heard that somewhere, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was mentioning about the prestige leaderboards. It's just like an
okay.
arbitrary scoring system. It's like your score plus some arbitrary value.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, that was basically my question. Just one more quick one. I remember you guys saying a while ago that all mods are going to be rankable in Lazer. So, like, just for example, the relax mod, right? Currently that doesn't submit in stable right now. Is that gonna like be submitting scores in Lazer? You're gonna have like a leaderboard for that or something, or is that not what you meant? I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, and that's exactly there's no reason that Relax should not have a leaderboard, so that will be a thing. And yeah, just to touch on like mod multipliers and stuff, my opinion kind of differs a bit from Smoogie, but I think we will reach a consensus or a direction in the end. I really think that we shouldn't be cross comparing mods across, like scores from different mods shouldn't be compared to each other ever. That's my subjective opinion on the matter. So whether that means that the current the supporter only filter where you can choose which mods you're looking at, whether that becomes like a mainstream feature and by default it only shows scores from the same mod you currently have selected. That's kind of where I would see things going, to the point where mod multipliers don't matter. They don't need to be displayed because you're never comparing different mods. But I think in discussion with Smiggy, obviously the mods are going to have to play into the PP values / the prestige leaderboards or whatever we call it. Right? Smiggy, is that?
definitely into the PP. I'm not sure if like your idea kind of replaces my idea. Maybe it does though. I'm not sure. We need to
I think
discuss
we're
a bit
gonna
more.
have to. Yeah, it's a bit of a up in the air thing, but at the end of the day, I think most people can agree that we shouldn't be cross comparing. We shouldn't be adding like arbitrary multiplayers to mods. If anything, they should be more complex calculations, which is kind of the direction that the PP star rating system is currently going. Like Flashlight was really recently added to it, giving it more of a nuanced implementation rather than just a flat multiplayer on top. So I think that's kind of the direction. If anything, you'll see mod multiplayers be less of a thing, or maybe not a thing.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. I know I'm taking a lot of time. Just sorry. One more quick question. It's not really that important, but for example, you know how you have your funds mods list. I think like certain mods like wind up and wind down aren't really, because since all mods are being rankable and some people are thinking of applying PP to them. I think like wind up and wind down are more like you know, like the easy or hard mods and whatnot. And then like other mods such as the ones that don't really affect uh like PP, such as like the approach circles and whatnot, those type of mods would just be fun mods instead, and then maybe that might make mods on leaderboards easier or whatnot. I was wondering if you're just gonna reorganize mods like in the future. Sorry,
Yeah, I think because we already have in Lazer the different categories of mods, I think like the fun category is not like anything in there probably won't split it out from into its own leaderboard, or maybe it will. Maybe you can choose that, but
yeah, I know that's not really like a focus right now, anyways, for your
yeah,
development.
like
Yeah.
because even if we do have like per mod leaderboards and that is the default display, you'll still be able to like you could be like we could have filters, which is like base difficulty affecting mods plus fun. You could be like, I want to see all my current combination plus fun applications on top, like making that level of filtering
Yeah,
available
that's
to
what I
the
was
player so
thinking.
they can see what they want to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, as for like, yeah, I wouldn't see all the fun mods necessarily affecting the star rating and PP, if that kind of is part of your question.
Yeah, I was just saying like the ones that do you. I was thinking it would be better to take them out of fun since they are affecting people. And whatnot. For example, wind up
For
would go
sure.
to hard.
We
Wind
will
down.
to answer your
Okay.
reorganization question, some of the mods are in weird places right now. So
Okay. Yeah.
we'll
Thank you.
probably do a
That's
pass on
pretty
that
much it.
before.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay. Is that the last one we're taking? Because we're about almost 10 minutes
No,
over time now.
Let's take two more.
Two more, okay. So we'll do camellirite. Get in here, boy. Hello.
Is it working now? Oh, yes.
It is.
Hello. I've got more questions about the. I put my hand up around then. It was for specifically the area that you map. That's really small at the moment. Is there a way that we could like edit the UI of the editor, similar to how you can edit the elements of the player, like when you play the game, how you can move the score around and the health around and stuff? You can like perhaps like move around the toolbar and make the timeline smaller and stuff. And
Have you tried there's already an option on the timeline which is like hiding control points. Have you played with that already?
I've not, but it's more just about the editor area that you can like make it bigger or smaller.
Yeah. Well, give it a try because I did add that relatively recently, and it
Okay.
makes the timeline a lot thinner and brings the playfield back up. But as for your larger question, which is can you edit the editor UI? It's something we could feasibly do, but I want to avoid it if possible because it's a kind of interface which I think should be like a very consistent experience for all players. But
Okay.
we will definitely offer, like I would see it that There needs to be a mode in the editor where the playfield is exactly where it is during gameplay, and you can still edit things in that mode. So whether we have like a
that'd be
minimal
good.
mode toggle or something, we'll definitely have the ability to, yeah, do what you want.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to next person.
Yeah.
Thanks for your question. Got Nitrous up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
All right. So my question is about the tutorial beatmap specifically, because for my comment about it, it's really good, but the issue right now is its visibility, because I'm seeing a lot of YouTubers and a lot of comments under the beatmap itself that they didn't see it. They didn't see that there's actually a tutorial, and in addition to that, will there be tutorials for other modes as well, so you can introduce the other players to other modes?
Was this for the editing side of things? I missed that.
No, no, it's
just general
basic,
gameplay.
generally
Okay, for
gameplay.
the gameplay tutorial. Yeah.
So
It'd
I
be
think
nice
what's
to have
happening
other
there
modes.
is when people open the client for the first time, it downloads a whole bunch of bundled maps, doesn't it? Including the tutorial.
That's what happens, but they can't see the tutorial, or they can't see it, that there's a
Okay.
tutorial.
Well, maybe we need to look into doing something like that and having the tutorial thing show up first on first launch or something. Like first ordered in the list instead of being buried beneath all the other bundled maps.
Yeah. It's one of those areas, like one of the main personal to-do items that I have for Lazer is improving the new user experience. Having a startup tutorial introducing the different systems OS has, and giving people a place to find more information and a direction to get into the game if they so choose to follow that direction. You also mentioned having tutorials for different game modes.
Yeah,
I think that's something which the community can get involved in, because the existing tutorial was, I think, originally it was a community effort. I know it was recently redone by Pishy with a few other guys. But if you're interested in that kind of thing, and there's a lot of really good storyboarders out there these days, if you create a tutorial for another game mode, one of the other 3 game modes, we would be more than likely to use it as an official resource, and we can compensate you for the time spent doing that if it's of decent quality. So I would really like to see more people getting involved with that kind of stuff, because we used to have such. I mean, I bring this up and it's probably at this point people are like, yeah, whatever. But back in the early days of the community, there was so much more of a push for this kind of making tutorials and that, awesome stuff in the mapping storyboarding scene. So it'd be cool to see more things happen there. I think we could definitely something which will improve in Lazer, but maybe in Stable we can make the client select the tutorial as the first map rather than a random map from the bundled downloads.
On first launch at least, anyway.
Yeah, that could be a simple change we can get in.
That's a good point, though. I had seen comments like that on some other OS videos, people saying that, oh, where the hell's the tutorial? Like, how do I play this game? And people are just like stumbling into normal maps and going, holy fuck, how do I play? Yeah, we should definitely fix that.
That's about it for me. Thanks for answering the question.
Yeah, thanks for asking about bringing that to attention. Actually, that's a pretty big problem. The tutorial thing. Definitely have to fix that. Okay. I think that was the last one we're doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can keep going. Winter's already asked a question. Sydosys has already asked a question. Maybe we should call it here and leave it. We've been through quite a few questions, haven't we?
Yeah, you also wanted to. You were quite empathetic about keeping it within like a 10-15 minute window, and we're already over that now.
Yeah, let's do that then. Anyone who still has questions, write them down and save them for the next meeting in 2 weeks' time, because we'll definitely listen to your questions at that point. Maybe take a screenshot of the people asking, or listen to ask questions now, and we'll get to them first. But yeah, maybe we'll call it there. So we had a lot of questions which didn't really require follow-up effort, but there's also some which did. So that's good, because I was kind of hoping that we don't get hit with like, 20 questions all requiring new development effort. And that wasn't the case. So cool.
Yeah.
But there are a few points we will need to get to, like the mania spread requirement can be immediately acted on, I think.
Yeah, that can go up for proposal straight away. No need for that.
We can probably discuss the better tutorial linking stuff. Well, there's two there. There's the editor tutorial. I want to check on the when you open the editor in Stable, it comes up with the song setup window, and that has a list of links there, which may not be up to date and may need like a direct link to Pitchy Fat's video series or something, if that's not already the case. Might be something
Maybe
to write down.
that to a wiki portal so we can like edit it.
Exactly.
And not have to,
At least, at very least,
Stable.
updating it to be more up to date with where resources currently live, because I know I haven't touched that in a while. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, the loved category changes. So we'll see in our web proposal for that. Hopefully, get something happening there. Yeah, maybe we'll call it there for today. That was good. It's really nice to hear all these questions / concerns from the community. I'll finish with just saying what I can see the team is currently working on, just to give an idea of the current direction in like a couple of minutes. So I'm currently working on rewriting the backend that Lazer uses to store all the user data, like beatmaps and all that. It's been something I've tried like 3 or 4 times over the years to do, but because we have the way we've been handling data modeling in Lazer hasn't been that great until now. So I've been putting in some effort to try and clean things up there, and I think it's kind of going to set me back a few weeks in terms of actually making forward progress on features, but it's something we need to do before things get out of hand. That's looking good. I've made some really good progress there. Smoogie has been working on a real-time PP display, so that'll be integrated in probably the next release of Lazer. We won't need third-party tools for that anymore. And also looking at adding some new multiplayer features, adding a playlist feature, which will allow you to queue up maps, to do kind of like having participants in a room be able to add the maps to a queue. So doing like host rotate without having the host rotating at all. Those are the current directions of Lazer. For us web, we're currently looking at improving the searchability of featured artist, allowing to search by genre, by BPM, by searching any kind of keyword. That's almost ready to go. And also the ability to pin scores on profiles. So you'll be able to, raise the visibility of scores which you think should be your best scores, not the top PP scores on your profile necessarily. And that's getting there. And as I said, we've been working on the infrastructure for score storage. That's making forward progress, and you'll probably see me talking about that in the next 3 months as we move all the existing scores across to the new storage. And there's also design work on updating the user profile and beatmap info pages are the 2 next ones which need to be updated to the new designs. I think the beatmap info one is done and in review, so you might see a change there. Yeah, I think that's anything I've missed. That's where development effort is currently being spent, I think. Oh yeah, and Smoogie did mention one of his next goals was looking into compatibility mode for Lazer, so we can get it running better on more hardware. Cool. Ephemeral, did you have anything to add, like what you've been working on community side? Anything I've missed? No?
I've been chewing over a few medals. Probably going to have more of those for Halloween release as usual. Fishy Fat's designed a few this time around as well.
Yeah.
Because I know people are really quite hot on those. Like, we get asked for them a lot.
Yeah, we did make a goal of adding one new medal each month, but that never happened, did it?
They're a bit of an N+1 problem, because as you add more medals, you slowly exhaust the number of unique combinations without like repeating the criteria of other medals. There's only so many times you can make like ones that are actually interesting. So kind of running into that
We
a
need
lot.
we need someone to give more ideas, like someone who's giving the same person who's giving Fishy Fat ideas for the featured artist videos.
They're all just him.
Yeah, I know. I was joking.
So that being said,
there's
if
some
you
guy in the background feeding him ideas.
if you do those the changes we discussed in internal about the being able to access previous scores thing in the medal.
Oh yeah, I mean
the medal
that
logic
doesn't require changes. It's just changing the table you're querying. So if you want to do that, just bring it up and I'll show you how.
Yeah, show me how to do that, because I think that will open up a lot of windows. A lot of doors
Okay,
too,
well,
technically.
let's call it there because we've gone 20 minutes over time. As I said, I wanted to keep these quite short so it doesn't get out of hand. So, yep, thanks to everyone for coming and listening, and those that asked questions, thanks a lot. They were really good. We got a very good range of questions, I think. Hopefully, people listening have gained some insight. We'll run this again in 2 weeks' time. Touch on any updates we have with the existing questions that maybe caused action to occur. But other than that, if you didn't have a chance to ask your questions this time, we'll take them next meeting.
Yeah, thanks for coming along.
Thanks. See you.
Goodbye.